Testing. Can you guys hear me? Am I streaming? Am I coming in live? Okay, I do have audio. I see that. Who is here? Where is the light fam? Let me see here. Make sure I'm streaming. Aha! And you can hear me. Okay, so I'm alive. All right. Oh, there's everybody. Okay. I'm like, did I get my times wrong? Where's everybody? Hey, Christine. Good seeing you. Katrina, how are you? Lisa Miller, good seeing you. We're talking about spiritual bypassing today, guys. You guys excited for this topic? Pamela Bay, how are you, my friend? Great seeing you. Thanks for showing up. Aaron Shepard, thank you for showing up. I appreciate the support, you guys. I've got my my Harry Potter secret potion brew. I'm going to stir the cauldron here of magicalness. BT, what's up, my brother? Good seeing you, my man. Oh, man. Still waking up here. All right, so I guess we will jump on into it. Let me do an energy cleanse. You guys get to see a piece of my morning routine. My purple amethyst is giving me good energy. All right, let's jump on in. Okay, so today, hey Susan, good seeing you, my friend. All right, so today we're going to be discussing spiritual bypassing. So I didn't really get a chance to organize my notes. I jotted down a couple of things, but I want you guys to keep me on track. So some of the points we're going to be hitting are spiritual bypassing, emotional intelligence, spiritual maturity, toxic positivity. What else is in there? Oh, spiritual ego. Let's not forget about the spiritual ego. Okay. I think all of that is pretty much in alignment with spiritual bypassing. So we will jump right on in. Hey, Sage Queen, good seeing you. Dallas, good seeing you, my friend. Thanks for showing up. Grand rising to you as well. Would not be live without the Harry Potter mug. Absolutely. Let him know, Katrina. Let him know. Patty, I'm brand new. Thank you. Hey, that's awesome. I appreciate you. Welcome to the Light Fam. You are appreciated here. Hey, Crystal, great seeing you, my friend. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate everyone's support. All right, so let me jump into it. Spiritual bypassing. So I guess it's best to just explain what spiritual bypassing is for those of you that don't know about it. It's basically using being spiritual as a means of bypassing facing any emotions that you don't want to face. So this is not real spirituality, and this is something that you definitely want to avoid. Spiritual bypassing is kind of it's like forced positivity. So actually this is what toxic positivity would be. It's forced positivity where you're not acknowledging the emotions that are asking for your attention. This is not real spiritual growth. This is bubblegum spirituality, because at the end of the day, your spiritual practice has to be strong enough to handle everything that comes across in your life, not just all the happy, fluffy stuff. If it can only handle the happy, fluffy stuff, then you're wasting your time with spirituality. It's a complete waste of time. Go do something else. Your spirituality has to be strong enough to handle everything. And of course it is, because spirit is everything. This is something that I love about what Wayne Dyer once said. There's a spiritual solution to every problem. And this has to be the case because spirit source is everything. So once you realize that you don't have to stay on one side of the fence to be happy, then you actually begin to grow. You can't ascend unless you face all aspects of yourself, including the aspects that are darker and denser. And darker does not mean evil or bad. I'm gonna dig into that stuff as well, but we got to get away from this concept that darkness is bad. Darkness is not bad. It's just another aspect of source at a different frequency. So let's get off of this fighting the darkness stuff. All right. So what do we want to jump in here? So toxic positivity. When you first have a spiritual awakening, you're going to experience some euphoric highs. Maybe you even had a Satori experience. And you may label that as spiritual. The problem with labeling something is that anything underneath that is no longer spiritual. This is wrong. Source is all things, including the lower vibrations. Source is the troughs as well as the in-between as well as the peak, because source is all things. So you immediately discount any other emotion that you're feeling if it's not your perception of spirituality. Spirituality is the whole. Spirituality is yin and yang. It's the dark and the light working simultaneously together, and source is that circle. Source is not just the light. Source is also yin, the dark part. Source is the entire circle. So when you avoid an emotion that comes to your frequency, you're robbing yourself an opportunity to ascend. And this is kind of why we're here. We're here to step into that source awareness. We're here to remember and heal all of the things that are keeping us out of source awareness, right? So you can't do that if you don't face what's in your shadow or face those negative emotions. So this is toxic positivity, sprinkling some positivity on everything, and really not being honest with yourself. I say this all the time. All emotions are valid. We can't lump some emotions into good and some into bad and say the ones that are bad are not us. Oh no, that's not me. I deny that. No, it is you. And it's really your barometer. So emotions are really just your barometer for telling you where your frequency is. Are you more in alignment with love or more in alignment with fear, or vice versa? It's really just your you guys like the vibrational milkshake analogy that I gave last time. So, your emotions are really just kind of telling you what's in your vibrational milkshake, right? So you take a sip of your milkshake. Wow, that tastes like 60% love and 20% gratitude and 5% happiness, and there's only 10% anxiety and 5% fear. Wow, this is a great vibrational milkshake. I'm going to attract more things to be grateful to my yard. I'm going to attract mutually beneficial love to my yard. I'm going to attract some health or some abundance to my yard. Or you take a drink of that vibrational milkshake. Ugh, this is 60% fear and 20% anxiety and 5% envy and only 10% love and 5% gratitude. Ugh, this vibrational milkshake is going to attract more things for me to be fearful of into my yard. This vibrational milkshake is going to attract more things for me to be anxious about into my yard. This vibrational milkshake is going to attract all the knuckleheads to my yard. We're all source. No one's really knuckleheads, but you know what I mean. So how do we change the mixture in our vibrational milkshake? Well, we make some space for the higher frequencies that we want by reducing all of the space that is being hogged up by the fear. So this is where we can do the house guest scenario that you guys have heard me say before. You want to be the house guest when those emotions of fear or whatever emotion you're not wanting to face shows up. play the house guest role, invite them in, right? What are you here to teach me? It's just that negative emotion is just a house guest. What are you here to teach me? Here are some chocolate chip cookies, and here's a vibrational milkshake. Have some of that, And while you're here, what is it that you're here to teach me? In other words, where am I in alignment with fear? And is that fear valid? Now, this is the thing. Oh, you're fear mongering. Oh, gotcha. Oh, you're crying wolf again. Okay, yeah. Give me my milkshake back. Okay, I got the message. However, this fear is not valid. There's the door. Don't let the doorknob hit you on the way out, right? And now there's more room to fill that vibrational milkshake with love and gratitude. And that's healthy positivity. It's not forced positivity, because you didn't deny what was not positive, right? You accepted what was out of alignment with positivity, and then you debunked it. And then that made room for healthy positivity. So this is called spiritual maturity. Spiritual maturity is facing all emotions. All emotions are valid. All emotions have a message as to where you may be in alignment with love, or the message is you're in alignment with love. But your spiritual practice needs to be strong enough to handle everything. Otherwise, it's you're doing it wrong, right? So you don't want to be toxically positive. This is kind of like the this is like the love and light crowd, basically. Now, you guys hear me say love and light all the time, and that's because that's what I want to give. I want you to receive love and light. So this is why I say it. But this is by no means, meant to be that I'm not facing my own darker, denser energy. I sit with those emotions. I sit with that darker energy, and I ask, what is the lesson? But I say love and light because I want to project that to you guys. I say namaste. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you. There's no hierarchy. There's no special. I'm not in some special club that you're not in. No, we're all source having a physical experience. And that's what love is. Love is equality. Love is not hierarchy. Love is equality. Because the definition of love is to take something as yourself, right? If there's hierarchy, is not equality. So hierarchy can't be love. All right. That's a different story. Because then I'll get off on a religious tangent, and I don't want to do that. This is spiritual maturity facing all emotions. The love and light crowd. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to kind of get on. The love and light crowd is very interesting because I don't want to. I'm watching my words here, but the thing about not accepting all aspects of you is you're growing your shadow. You're growing your shadow. Like, honestly, if so, let's say that you're yin and yang, right? And the yang part is the light part, and you say, I declare war against yin. Well, we wouldn't have yin and yang, right? Because that would be that would be internal division. That would be separation. Okay. Source is the whole. So you already have a shadow from childhood. Don't make your shadow bigger by repressing more and more emotions. When you don't face something, when you are scared to face something, that gets put in the shadow, and then the shadow gets bigger. So it's funny, the people that think that they're, ascending and all of this, that aren't facing their shadow, they're actually less ascended or less awakened than people that actually are doing the work and not, hiding behind love and light. Darkness is not evil. We gotta, this is like all of the, the light warriors. There's a fight. Light warrior, there's no fight, guys. There's no fight. In the higher dimensions, there's no fight. Fighting is duality. War is duality. There's no duality in the higher dimensions. It's all unity. If you're a light warrior, you're kind of a living oxymoron because that's duality, because titles, the ego is non-physical, So the ego is constantly trying to prove that it exists. So if it has some cute title, look at me, I exist, I'm 144, I'm a light warrior, I'm fighting. If I'm fighting, I've got purpose. And if I've got purpose, then I exist. It's all ego, guys, you know? I hear some crazy stuff in the spiritual world, man. What was the other one? Archangel Michael's royal bloodline. Michael was never physical. There's no blood, okay? I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but there's no blood. You know, Michael was never physical, okay? He is a seraphim class angel. He was never physical, okay? So there's no royal bloodline for Michael, all right? What was the other thing I heard? The Dark Lord. There's this big fight, and the Dark Lord is going to do this, and the Dark Lord is in that. What is this? Lord of the frickin' Rings? What Dark Lord? What are you talking about? You know? So you got to understand, everything that you experience is an extension of yourself. So if you have this concept of Dark Lord, what is that really? It's probably unhealed trauma from childhood, right? And so this your concept of this Dark Lord is going to express itself in your life, right? Because it's in alignment with fear. It's out of alignment with love. It's going to express itself in ways that you don't want to because you're not facing it. You're fighting it. Fighting it is resistance. There is no resistance in unity. There's no resistance in the higher dimensions. Resistance is ego. Resistance is duality, okay? So, if you've got these concepts, you need to fight the darkness and this Dark Lord thing and all of that. You're not understanding that the Dark Lord is also source. Okay, all of this stuff, the dark entities and the evil entities and all that, that's all source as well. Well, you want to fight that? You're fighting source, because source is all things. This has to be the case. Otherwise, source wouldn't be all things. It's just a different frequency of source having that experiencing itself at a lower frequency. So in other words, these, malevolent spirits or dark entities or Dark Lord or whatever all that stuff is just, that is a high level of dissonance to source awareness. What is source awareness? Not realizing that you're source. Well, what is source? Absolute intelligence, absolute love, absolute abundance. You believe that you have to take to get. You believe you have to hurt to get your needs met. You've got to, do these things that are out of alignment with love to get your needs met. So there's a high level of dissonance to source awareness. But that's also source having an experience at that level of consciousness. Just as, another aspect of source that is more in alignment with source awareness, that has high resonance with source awareness, understanding that it's source living in unity consciousness. They're both source. So all of this cute titles and fighting against stuff and, there's a war. There's no war in the higher consciousness. You don't need a cute freaking title, I'm chosen by the Most High God. Okay, so everyone else that isn't chosen, all these people over here, they're not special. They're not also source. You're not special. You're not special. Why? Because we're all special. We're all source. Drop the cute titles and face the darkness within you. And then you'll heal that darkness and raise that darkness into your more dominant, higher frequency. If you want to be love and light, if that's how you identify, then you're going to raise those darker frequencies, denser frequencies, into your more higher frequency. And then there's integration. There's no resistance. There's no war. It's integration, right? So we got to get off of this fighting stuff. It's just you can't ascend unless you heal your shadow. So in my opinion, hiding behind a cute title and only love and light and all of that stuff keeps you from ascending. As a matter of fact, I would say those people are more, it's tougher for them to ascend because they're making their shadow bigger. But when you face your shadow and you integrate it and you raise those frequencies, you ascend. You get a higher home vibe. You have to understand, we're a microcosm in the macrocosm, right? So all of these, as I mentioned, all of these darker, entities or whatever is also source. So relate it to yourself. You are anger. You are fear. You are jealousy. But you also are love. You also are gratitude. You also are happiness. You also are generosity. So you can't look at an aspect of yourself and say that that's not also you. You can't say that the anger is not you, because it is you. You can't say that the fear is not you, because it is you. Same with the universe. Those aspects are also the universe. It's the dominant frequency that you choose to express to the world. So yes, you may have anger and fear and jealousy or whatever, but if your dominant frequency is love and gratitude, then you're going to be more apt to share that with the world. So it really depends on your dominant frequency, but you don't deny any aspect of yourself because you're denying source. Okay, so let's lose the titles. Let's stop avoiding things, and let's stop making our shadow bigger. That's what you're doing when you're spiritually bypassing and you're only love and light. You're making your shadow bigger, and when you make your shadow bigger, you can't heal. What is heal? We're integrating the lower frequency into the higher frequencies through love. And then what you do is you step into a receiving state. If you're fighting against something, fighting is resistance. It's a closed off state of fight or flight. That's not unity. That's not source consciousness. Source consciousness is not in fight or flight, guys. I promise you. Source consciousness is not in survival mode. Okay? If you're fighting against something, you're not in unity consciousness. You're not in source consciousness, because fighting is the opposite frequency of love. Period. So, we gotta stop with the cute titles and this concept of dark versus light. Yin and yang is not fighting, guys. Okay, so just be careful what you guys. And when I say you guys, I don't mean the Light Fam. I see all these wacky posts on IG and all of this stuff, and so that's actually what I'm talking about. But I know the Light Fam is on point. Because the Light Fam is not scared to face all emotions. All right, that was like a 13-minute rant. So let me see where we are here. And as usual, I'm way behind on comments. Get some of this magic Harry Potter. All right, let me jump in. What do we got? Susan, right. It's so encouraging. Yes. Thank you, Susan. Pamela, always grateful for the lessons source gives. Yes. Look at that word. Grateful, gratitude, receiving state, flow state, state of allowing, the opposite of resistance. Resistance is stagnation. There's a war. This war's been going on for millions of years. Sounds to me like we need to do something different then, doesn't it? Jeez. Oh, change your paradigm, people. Change your paradigm. Johnny, what's up, brother? What up, Dave? Love and light mofos. One love, so fam. Chola, hey, light fam. Great to see you. Missy Roberts, harmony equals flow. Yes. Chola, hiya, David. Hi, Chola. Great seeing you. Pamela Bay. Sometimes the anger or fear is covering up something deeper underneath. When we sit with it, we see it, and we get the lesson. Woo! Shout it from the rooftops, Pamela Bay. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. What you resist persists. Yes, Katrina. Absolutely. I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. What do we got here? Johnny, true love. It's all about understanding self. Yeah, know thyself is the golden rule of spirituality. If you're only love and light, then you don't know yourself, and then you can't ascend. Your true self, shadow integration. Yes. Yeah, we integrate the shadow. We don't make an enemy of the shadow. Making an enemy of the shadow is self-hate and internal division. Yin doesn't hate yang, guys. So, love all parts of self, not just parts. Yep. Missy Roberts. Oh, different frequency of source expressing itself. Yes, I like that. Yeah, there's no division. There's no duality. All of these concepts, the fear-based concepts, that's also source. It has to be, otherwise source wouldn't be all things. So this is why when we get into the religious stuff, it's so easy to debunk it, because it's all duality. And source is not duality. Source is unity. And you just see nothing but duality with a lot of those religious fear-based structures. So they're very easy to debunk. Hence, a spiritually awakened person will be always happy in the darkest corner of the house. Yeah, I like that. So this is actually spiritual maturity. Understanding that you are strong enough to handle any emotions that come. So this is kind of like the little spontaneous live that I did on Tuesday. Your energy is enough. When your ego tries to tell you that you're not strong enough to handle that emotion, or you're not strong enough to handle what you don't want to face, or you're not strong enough to, open up that wound again, that's just your enemy. I'm sorry, the enemy. That's just your ego trying to keep you safe and keep you comfortable because it doesn't believe that you're strong enough to handle these things. But a spiritually mature person is not living through their ego. They're at least one step removed, and they listen to what the ego has to say, and then they judge whether or not that is actually valid, whether or not it's a valid fear, and then they have the decision to choose love or fear. This is always the huge dichotomy in all parts of life. Are we choosing love, or are we choosing fear? And once you debunk the fear, it's much easier to choose love. So this is spiritual maturity. And emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is accepting all emotions for the lesson that they bring. Johnny, true love. The darker your shadow, the more light you shall receive. I like it. Keep your sword sheath, but know when to use it. There you go. Yeah, you can do both, actually. Missy, no Dark Lord. Yeah, I know. I saw this post just about the Dark Lord. Just stop. I think things are done for you, not to you. Yeah, exactly. Situations push you to grow. Yeah, so emotions don't come to punish you. This is another thing that a lot of people kind of take from the fear-based religions. So they'll leave the fear-based religions, but they'll take some of the nonsense with them and believe that, the universe is punishing them, or there's some type of a test that they have to pass or whatever. It's all energy. It's just energy. What frequency are you holding? That negative energy or that negative emotion did not show up to punish you. It's just you have a vibrational alignment with it, and you need to figure out, what is that alignment? Is that an alignment that you want? Or is that just the ego fear-mongering? Or is it something that you actually need to take a look at and give some serious attention to and heal? So, what up, God? Some people might misconstrue that a little differently because everyone has a lot of baggage around that word God. But yes, we are all God. We are all source. They're learning opportunities. Yeah, they're learning opportunities and they're level up. So I talked about toxic positivity. So this is something that I wanted to touch on. Well, I think I did touch on that, actually. I'm not very organized this morning, guys. Sorry. So one thing I said was don't label the highs of your spiritual journey. So this is something that we fall into quite a bit. So like I was saying earlier, you can experience those highs and that becomes your label. But there's a very famous saying. Once you teach a child the name of a bird, it will never see that bird again. It will only see the name, right? So let's say that this up here, you've given a label of this is what spirituality is. So everything underneath it is not spirituality in your mind. And you miss the lesson. There's a lesson in the trough. There's a lesson in the in-between. And you don't even see the high point for what it really is because you've given it a label, right? So you miss the lesson at the high point as well. So the journey is the destination. Spirituality is the ups, the downs, the in-betweens. It's all of it. It's not just the high points. So don't label the high points and don't discount the feelings that you guys feel in the troughs and in the in-betweens. Okay, all emotions are valid. I hit that. Yeah, so not wanting to face. So not wanting to face an emotion is in alignment with fear. You're fearing that you're not going to be able to handle that emotion, and you're in alignment with fear. this is not spirituality. Spirituality is strong enough to handle everything because everything is spirit. Let's see. Can't ascend unless you heal your shadow. All right, now this is a point that I wanted to kind of jump on. Your emotional intelligence and your spiritual maturity go through the roof when you face those negative emotions, because you're physically demonstrating to yourself that you are way stronger than what your ego has made you believe. You're way more resilient. You can handle much more things than what the ego has led you to believe. And so when you do that, a lot of the emotional charge surrounding negative emotions when they come is completely dissipated because you faced it before. You've been through hell and back, and you came out unscathed and alive. And so the more experience you get with processing and integrating negative emotions, the less that those negative emotions will have an effect over your mentality, your mindset, your vibe. They won't steal your joy. You know, a lot of times we give our joy away way too easily because we react instead of respond. But when you step back into the observer mind and you simply observe these negative emotions that have come in, and you've faced the fear, you've said, my energy is enough, and you go at it straightforward, and then you debunk the fear, this becomes a pattern with you. And now, you know, it's not that problems stop showing up, it's that your perception of them as a problem has completely changed. And this is really spirituality. People think that once you're, you know, quote unquote enlightened, right? Once you're enlightened, problems will stop showing up. It's not that they stop showing up. It's just that you no longer look at them as problems, right? They'll show up, and you will understand that it's just an energy frequency that you're reflecting. So you change your frequency. You tune to a different dial, or I'm sorry, you tune to a different channel, not by bypassing, but by facing. The only way out is in, right? So you tune your dial by facing that negative emotion. What's the lesson? Where am I in alignment with love? Where am I in alignment with fear? And is that fear valid, or is the fear not valid? And then we heal that frequency by getting out of alignment with the fear, getting the lesson, and then tuning to the channel that we want to experience. And this is really what spirituality is. Spirituality can handle everything because source is everything. So your spiritual practice needs to be strong enough to handle everything. And it is. You just have to face everything, and you'll demonstrate that to yourself. What do we got here? Hey, MJ, how are you, my friend? MJ finally jumping in live. I appreciate you. Thanks for showing up. Cherry Jones, how do you think is the best way to get rid of negative energies if you can't get rid of the environment? Well, you are the environment. So your environment is your vibe. So everything starts within. That's always the answer. Negative is a term that discounts the lesson of that energy. It discounts telling you where you're in alignment with fear in some way. So you go within and you ask, where am I in alignment with fear? And is that fear valid? And then you start to debunk the fear, and then your environment changed. The universe is your mirror. So your environment is a mirror of what you have going on in here. So if you have a bunch of emotions that you're calling negative, then you want to just see where you're in alignment with fear, out of alignment with love, and then are those fears even valid in the first place? So just step into more of the inner observer state of mind. Hello, my spiritual team. Hey, Zen, how are you, my friend? Zen 1111. I like that. Hello, goddess. You can handle it better way. Oh, you can handle it way better. Wow, just had some temporary dyslexia there. So nice when we are aware. That's everything. Awareness is everything. We are so powerful. Yeah, and you sink into that power within and sink into your heart space. Your ego may not want you to be aware of how powerful you actually are, because that means getting out of your comfort zone. And when you get out of your comfort zone, that's a threat to survival as far as the ego is concerned. So listen to your heart as far as how powerful you actually are. Heart doesn't lie, guys. The heart doesn't lie. It's all perception. It is all perception. Are shadows a part of inner child wound, or they're two different things? Shadow is anything that you have suppressed. It doesn't necessarily have to be from childhood. It could be something that happened in teens or even adulthood, but something traumatic that you have suppressed and you don't want to face that. So that's why I say, like, even in the present moment, not just childhood, but in the present moment, if you're not facing something, that means you're repressing it, and it goes to the shadow, and then your shadow gets bigger. A lot of the things I healed from was solely because I changed my perspective of what I experienced. Absolutely. Yep. Let's see. Jose Piguero says, David, hi, how are you? I'm doing great. Thank you, my friend. How do you get rid of mental blockage, especially being in a negative environment? Well, there's the negative environment again. You are the environment. So you go within and you see where you're in alignment with fear, and is that fear valid? You get out of alignment with that negative frequency or that fear-based frequency. There's fear there somewhere, whether it's fear of not being good enough, fear of not being worthy of love, fear of abandonment, whatever that fear is. There's some fear there somewhere that is creating that negative environment, because the universe is a reflection of what you have going on in here. Mental blockages, I'm not sure what you're referring to specifically, but this is a great thing about meditation. You can come up with affirmations that would be the opposite of whatever that blockage is. And in meditation, once you kind of hit that still space where you're in the subconscious theta brainwave state, you say your affirmations, and that begins to change your identity. I left my job after 16 years. Feels so good. Nice. Sounds like you followed your heart. The earth is changing, and so am I. Yep, this is the great awakening, the great ascension. Heal yourself. Yep, shout it from the rooftops. Put it on a shirt. Stick it on a notepad. Let's see here. Did I have anything else? Sorry for the lull here, guys. Like I say, I didn't really get my notes too organized here. Yeah, I talked about all that. I must have really rambled quite a bit. I talked about all that stuff. The spiritual ego will tell you, I'm too spiritual to be bothered by this low vibe. All right, yeah. So I don't think I mentioned. Did I mention spiritual ego? I don't remember. But so spiritual ego, this is definitely something that we want to dive into, because like I just said, the spiritual ego will say, I'm too high vibe to deal with this or to be bothered with that. And when you first have a spiritual awakening and that old 3D identity dies, there's a new higher consciousness identity that is wanting to be birthed onto your timeline, but the in-between identity is the spiritual identity. So now you've woken up to this newfound state of higher consciousness. You have a new understanding of how you create your own reality and your role in things, and maybe your source awareness level rises. And then that spiritual ego is born. So the spiritual ego is the one that thinks it's too high vibe to deal with this low vibe stuff. And there's some discernment there. So there's a difference between protecting your vibe and bypassing. So let me dig into that a little bit. So if you're choosing to avoid something in the external that is low vibe, quote unquote, so maybe those old 3D friends that were negative or gossipers or whatever, you don't want to drink that Kool-Aid anymore, that's protecting your vibe. That's not bypassing. Or maybe you don't do those old activities that you used to do before you had a spiritual awakening that now bring your vibe down. Well, that's protecting your vibe. That's not bypassing, right? Or maybe you no longer want to consume the old content that you used to watch before you had a spiritual awakening. That's protecting your vibe. That's not spiritual bypassing. It becomes bypassing when you're avoiding something internally. So if you're avoiding something externally, it falls more under protecting your vibe. Now, if there's something that you need to face externally and you're scared to face it, that's bypassing. So if you need to face it and you're not sure whether or not you can handle it, your energy is enough. Don't bypass, face it, and prove to yourself that you're way more strong and resilient than you gave yourself credit for being. This builds your self-confidence, and it also stops from growing your shadow. Don't grow your shadow, guys. But when it's something internal that you don't want to face, that's spiritual bypassing. It's really, spiritual bypassing is really escapism. This can get very dangerous for people, especially that have kind of an addictive background, because they'll get addicted to that euphoric high that comes with spirituality, and that kind of becomes the new drug, which means they don't want to face anything that is low vibe or negative that's going to get them off of that high. And the problem with that is that if you don't heal that vibration that is attracting those things that are negative or low vibe, then they're going to keep showing up. And then all of a sudden, this new drug called spirituality is no longer giving you the high that it used to, because you're trying to force the positivity. And then that addictive person will end up going back to, whatever their addiction was before. So this is why you want to show yourself, prove to yourself that spirituality is big enough to handle everything that shows up. And that builds a solid spiritual foundation that can handle anything, not just... You don't want to have the bubblegum spirituality when something shows up, you go running, oh, it's too negative, I gotta get out of here, or I'm scared of that. That's not spirituality. You might as well believe in something else. It's not doing its job. Spirituality is supposed to handle everything, So this is what you want to do. So my point for talking about escapism is you don't want to use spirituality as escapism, right? It's not the new drug. It's not whatever that other overindulgence was. It's a lifestyle that allows you to handle everything that comes your way, basically. And you do that by facing everything that comes your way. Let's see. Dave, you're doing awesome, brother. You go. Oh, you good. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate it, my friend. It's a brave step. I know your heart and consciousness will lead you to the right path. Oh, you're talking to Zen. Gotcha. Okay. It's a balance of life, good and bad. Yeah, I don't like those labels, good and bad. It's all source, experiencing itself at different vibrations. Bad is really just a lesson. Where are you out of alignment with love? When you are so still that the emotion stops being triggered. Yeah, and that's healing. Yeah. MJ, I have a question. Yes, ma'am. Ask away. I think those are all of my notes. I think I was kind of short on this one. I don't think I have anything else on this. If you guys have any questions on spiritual bypassing, emotional intelligence, please ask, because I believe, I hit all my points. Yep. Oh, dark and light. Yes, dark and light are One. That's all source. Okay, David, are we only asking questions about spiritual bypassing? Yes, we are. If so, then when are we in a codependent twin flame? Oh, Lord, twin flame, here we go. Would you be fixer and forgiving? What? Twin flame situation, would you say being the fixer and forgiving is spiritual bypassing? Yeah, I don't want to turn this into a twin flame thing, guys, but is fixing and forgiving spiritual bypassing? I would say no, because if you're fixing it and you're forgiving it, then you're facing it. So that would not be spiritual bypassing. So as long as you're facing things and fixing it and healing it and all of that, then that would not be bypassing. Always hang on the positive and love. Always hang on everything. The negative is just as valid as the positive. Fear is just as valid as love because it tells you where your frequency is. We don't just hang on to one side of the fence. Prayer changes things. Yeah, it depends, because if you're externalizing everything. So here's where a lot of people, and I'm not saying this about you, I don't know what your, routine is, but what I see with a lot of religious people with prayer is it just keeps them in this codependent state of constantly asking for things. They're always going to dad asking for this. Oh, God, do this for me, give me that, protect me from this and that. There's no loving parent that wants to see their child be this codependent, man-child for their entire life. That's like a 40-year-old, living in the basement, sleeping on the mattress of his parents' house. No, God doesn't want to give you a fish dinner every time that you're hungry. God wants to teach you how to fish. In other words, you're supposed to grow up and learn how to be this self-sufficient adult that your father is. This is what every loving parent wants. So a lot of religious people, they just stay in this codependent, disempowered state, always externalizing, asking for this and that, and you just never grow. So if pray the right way. Go within and just be what it is you want to experience. You have to already be it because you are a source. We have this externalized, codependent, outside type of thing going on. You already are absolute love, absolute intelligence, absolute abundance, absolute health. And then you just simply share the same space with it because you're sharing the same space with another aspect of yourself. This is why spirituality is the next step up from this codependent religious thing, because spirituality allows you to step into your source awareness, which is what every loving parent, God, wants for their child. And that wasn't a judgment on you. Like I say, I don't know anything about you. I'm just bringing a different perspective to the table that a lot of people from this religious worship, outside pray type of situation going on never really consider, because they're not programmed to consider anything else because it's blasphemy, But when you break out of the fear-based nonsense and your consciousness expands, you begin to understand that you're a fractal of God and you have these same type of abilities and you just create everything that you want to experience. There doesn't need to be so much codependency going on, which is not what a loving parent wants for their kid. When you are your true whole self, things are not meant for you fall away. Yeah, because there's no vibrational resonance, which is a great point, because if there's something in your frequency that you don't want, that means you're vibrating with it, right? So change your frequency. We got to change the frequency, and that causes us to go within. Let's see here. I believe the divine is inside of me, so I am more spiritual than religious. Yes, no duality for me. Shout it from the rooftops, absolutely. Zen, I have been through the dark night and so blessed. Yes. Yeah, if you've had a spiritual awakening, you've been through the dark night for sure. And the dark night is a beautiful thing because it's the birth of the new identity and it's the death of the old identity. And I always follow up death with life, right? So when there's an ego death, there's a new ego life. there's an identity death of the old and a new identity that is birthed. Death is not the end. It's just a process. It's a circular process. A lot of people, when I say ego death, about the dark night of the soul, they're, oh, well, the death, that's a little scary. Well, don't worry. You've got a new ego that is being birthed, but that in-between spot is the darkness, hence dark night of the soul. How do you know if the dark night is over, or is it ever? Because I felt like it comes and goes. It can be doing really good high vibe and then crash and go back up. Yeah, so the thing about the dark night, we're getting a little off topic of the spiritual bypassing, but there's not one dark night. It's not a one and done. There's the main one, which is usually right after a spiritual awakening. But because you're always honing your frequency as you're ascending, you're honing it more in alignment with love and out of alignment with fear, there's going to be many as in small, not a lot. Well, there's a lot and small. Take many any way that you want it, but there's going to be many dark night of the soul. So in other words, numerous small dark nights of the soul, because you're constantly needing to hone and tweak your frequency to keep ascending. Honing and tweaking your frequency means you're adjusting it out of alignment with fear and more in alignment with love, sovereignty, authenticity, freedom, gratitude, which is a very free way to live, which is why we're here to learn how to do those things. Oh, how do you know when it's over? Well, I guess when you find a little bit more homeostasis in your vibe, kind of like what you said, there's a crash and there's a high and all of that. When you find a little bit more balance, it means you're doing the work where there's less things that trigger unhealed trauma. When there's less unhealed trauma, there's less things to be triggered, and then you're more in balance. Life is more homeostatic from that point, if that's a word. What is your opinion on spiritual awakening and sex? People often seem to want to separate them. If it's sex for where you're honoring yourself, then it is a spiritual practice. If it's sex that is used as a form of escapism, or you dishonored your self-worth and agreed to something just because you thought you were going to get somebody, or you were trying to people please, or you came from a disingenuous place to try to get someone to marry you, or whatever. Any time that act of sex is based off of some component of fear, not being good enough, not being accepted, chasing validation, any time that it's in that type of a vibration, it's not a spiritual practice. Well, actually, I'm going to take that back. Because everything is a spiritual practice. Everything is a lesson. And as long as you are viewing that as a lesson of what not to do, meaning you felt all of the guilt and shame or whatever came from that lesson, then it is a spiritual practice, because now you know not to dishonor yourself and have sex for the wrong reasons. So I'll say that that's still a spiritual practice. But if you are sharing the same space with someone that honors your worth and your divinity, and it's an act of empowerment where you are honoring yourself, and it's not coming from a place of lack to get something in return, then I would definitely say it's on a higher level of spirituality. Hope that answers your question. You can deal with things a lot easier and calm down. Yep. I used to be crazy. But no, I'm aware. It's such a blessing. That's funny. We're all crazy in some way, Zen. Oh my goodness. Sarah, hey Sarah, how you doing? Hi David, I feel like I'm dipping into unconscious and my energy is so low. How can I be present with this? Well, go within and ask why the energy is low. What is it in alignment with? Is it in alignment with some sort of fear? Again, fear of not being worthy, fear of not being worthy of love, fear of not being good enough, fear of abandonment. What fear is it in alignment with? And then try to go back to the root of that fear. Did something happen in childhood that is in alignment with that fear? And then you start asking, well, is that fear even valid, or did that just come from a parent that didn't know how to love? Just do the inner work, but your answer will be found within. Everyone grows at their own pace. Yep, we're all on our own journey, and everyone is perfect right where they are. Now, this is where I get on my everyone is perfect rant, because this religion that teaches, nobody's perfect, we're only human, nobody's perfect. Well, something can only be imperfect if it's being compared to something else. If you're not comparing yourself to anything, then there's no perfect or imperfect, right? It's only when we try to compare, oh, well, I should be over here. I should be higher on my spiritual journey, or I should be like, my neighbor or whatever. Comparison is the thief of all joy. It's also the agenda of the ego. The ego loves to compare because the ego is non-physical. If the ego can compare itself to something else, then, I must exist. I'm better than this, or I'm worse than that, so everybody is perfect where they're supposed to be. The caterpillar is just as perfect as the butterfly. Both are necessary to get to the end destination and experience the journey to its fullest. So I always have to, say this, because you get these people that see, when you say that you're not perfect, it's so offensive to your soul that we have to come up with all of these little word games. Oh, I'm perfectly imperfect. I found perfection in my imperfections. All this wordplay to self-soothe the fact that our soul doesn't agree with this not perfect BS, right? So we come up with, I'm perfectly imperfect. Shut up. No, you're perfect. You are perfect where you're supposed to be on your journey, So that's funny. Let's see here. Well, that is the hour. I will answer one more question before we wrap it up. I've got a Zoom call at the top of the hour, and I want to get prepared for my client. One thing that I will say, guys, is next week, I believe I finally am able to get the guest that I wanted to bring on, actually for this live. She was in Colombia this week. But she's going to be off of vacation next week, and hopefully she will be in next Thursday's live. I think you guys will like it a lot. Oh, and by the way, if you guys like those spontaneous lives, just let me know. Sometimes I just get little hits of inspiration, and let me just hit the go live button and see what happens. So I think Tuesday went pretty well. Any last questions on spiritual bypassing? Nicole Fontana, how you doing, my friend? I haven't seen you before. Welcome. Let's see. Great as always. Oh, MJ says, I would love to hear about ego and spiritual awakening phases. That's a big topic. I do have some videos on that. I wanted to just kind of answer a quick question because we are at the hour mark. But I'll forward you some videos on that because I've got spiritual awakening stages, which is very popular. There's the 4 main stages. And then the Dark Night of the Soul is about ego death. So I've got a lot of Dark Night of the Soul videos. No questions? Let me try to pick one out here. Why do you think people struggle to attract money? And what might the fear be? Well, they don't understand that they are abundance. That's the problem. So this has to do a lot with programming, especially religious programming. Money is the root of all evil. It's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get in heaven. Money doesn't grow on trees, blah, 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 blah. All this BS, which was meant to keep people disempowered, codependent, and controllable by the church. This is BS. Source is absolute abundance. You're a fractal of source having a spiritual, having a physical experience. So your DNA is abundance itself. Source is so abundance is an energy current. It's a mindset. It's not a thing. It's not a certain number of dollars. You know, it's a current, and it's an identity. When it's your subconscious identity, not just logically, because anyone can say money. What are some of the things? Money comes easily to me. I am a friend of money. Those are great, but you know, I am absolute abundance has to be in your subconscious identity, not just logically. So you have to bridge the gap between the mind and the heart. You have to identify as abundance itself, and then you just effortlessly share the same space with abundance because you're just sharing the same space with another aspect of yourself. You don't have this concept if it's something separate, I got to go get it and I got to attract it and I got to have these cute affirmations. It's your subconscious identity because it's your spiritual DNA. All right. I don't see any questions. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Noah Mora, is spiritual bypassing escaping the shadow with positivity? Yes, it absolutely is. And that's an awesome definition, by the way. I really like that one. Yeah, so you're escaping facing the shadow with positivity. Absolutely. And what you don't face gets put in the shadow gets bigger, and then it's much harder to ascend. You can only ascend as high as your lowest vibrational aspect. So yes, people with unhealed trauma, they can experience moments of satori, but those are very short-lived, short-term moments because they still have stuff that's weighing them down in the shadow. And until you heal that stuff in the shadow and raise your kind of default frequency, you're going to have a hard time keeping a long-term high vibration. Oh, yeah, get David's free abundance meditation. Yes, I should forgot about that. Yeah, in the description of all of my videos is a free 30-minute guided meditation on abundance, which basically reprograms you to identify as abundance itself. And if you listen to that before going to bed for a full, 30 days or so, you will see just, I got to get rid of this money. I've just got too much money. No, but you'll definitely see a huge difference because you'll stop making an enemy of money and stop separating it as something from yourself. All right, guys, we are over the hour. I think that is it. It's been another fun one. I love all you guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Sending light and love to all.